Allahu, 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 Allah, Allahu, Allah.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, hamdan yuwafina min kafi mazida. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, hamdan yuwafina min kafi mazida. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, hamdan yuwafina min kafi mazida. May Allah bless the Institute. I'm very honored, mashallah, to come to Nottingham. I was here very recently to partake in another program. And so the premise of these gatherings are about building communities based on love. Ustadh Yasir, someone who's beloved to myself, inshallah, will be commenting on the nature of building communities based on love. What I was asked to speak about briefly was about engaging the disenfranchised, which is part and parcel of building communities based on love. I think what's important to know or look at or reflect upon first and foremost is the nature of engagement. That we have a very well-trodden path of those that went before us, and they left behind a legacy and ethics by which we first espouse, secondly live and die by. A prophetic tradition, quote unquote, is Badiru ala a'mal as-salihah. The Prophet ﷺ, peace and blessings be upon him, and all the Prophets said what? Hasten to do good deeds. Badiru ila a'mal as-salihah. Hasten to do good deeds. This is what we call an imperative. And if we juxtapose this with another tradition of Abdullah ibn Umar, who said, إِذَا أَصْبَحْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرَ الْمَسَاءَ. If you enter the morning, don't expect to see nighttime. وَإِذَا أَمْسَيْتَ فَلَا تَنْتَظِرْ الصَّبَاحَ. And if you enter the evening, don't expect to see the morning. خُذْ مِنْ سَهَتِكْ لِمَرَدِكْ. Take from your good health for when you are unwell, وَخُذْ مِنْ حَيَاتِكْ لِمَوْتِكْ. And take from your life for when you pass on. These are axiomatic statements by which we should live and die by. And they're principles that all we have to do at one level to know how to engage, first and foremost, and secondly, how to engage the disenfranchised, is to look at that first generation. That's the blueprint for us to adopt in relation to what? Engaging those before us today. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ was someone who had an absolute concern for what we call the mustad'afin, the downtrodden. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, his concern for the first of the two things he established on the migration to establish the prophetic community was the mosque, like a hub, a social hub, a spiritual hub, and then likewise to establish the marketplace to give us economic independency. And in establishing the mosque, it became what? A place for the homeless, Ahl Sufa, the poor people. Where would they seek their solace? In the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. What's interesting, as someone who works with the incarcerated, is that the prison, during the time of the Prophet Muhammad, was what? Was his mosque. Right? What a blessed prison that would be. Right? Can you imagine being shackled in the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ? But his absolute concern was what? We can't take this aspect of him walking alongside, living, breathing with the downtrodden, with the mustad'afin. And one thing as quote-unquote translators of the da'wah, translators of the tradition in our context, that if we don't walk alongside the mustad'afin, the downtrodden, then we've lost respect in the eyes of the masses. We've lost respect in the eyes of in relation to us being irrelevant to the communities that we belong to. And the Prophet ﷺ, walking alongside, when the companions, the people from Ahl Sufa would come up to him and they'd complain to him about what? About meaning they were starving. And we've never experienced this, to be so hungry that we have to what? Tie rocks to our stomach to ebb the nature of that hunger pan. And so they would come to him ﷺ and complain, 3 in a row. They'd lift their stomachs, they'd lift their shirts up to show what? The rocks tied to their stomach. One rock. Next companion pulls up his shirt to show that the rock is tied to his stomach for the hunger pangs that he was subject to. Third companion pulls his shirt up to show the rock that was tied to his stomach based on the hunger that he was subject to. So what does the Prophet do? He lifts his shirt up, showed them 2 rocks that were tied to his stomach. Right? Meaning he was alongside them. And his faqr was the faqr of ikhtiyar. His poverty was the poverty of choice. But then how would he engage that first community? And that first community laid down the blueprint of how we should engage. And so if we look at, for example, the graduates of that prophetic school, when he was with his companions and he asked them questions, Man asbaha minkum al-yawm sa'ima, who today is fasting? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the greatest companion in my opinion, puts his hand up. Ana ya Rasulullah, oh, I am Messenger of God. Right? So that's something which returns to the self, spiritual cleansing by the medium of fasting. Secondly, he asked the question, what? Man aada minkum maridan, who today has visited someone who's sick? The only companion to put his hand up was who again? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Ana ya Rasulullah. Right? Man tabi'a minkum janaza, who today has gone to witness the funeral prayer of anyone? Again, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq puts his hand up. Man atta minkum miskina, who today has fed someone who's poor? Right? Again, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq puts his hand up. And then he says, what? Majtama'na fi mar'in illa dakhal al-jannah. That never do these traits gather in a single human being except he secured for himself paradise. Right? What's interesting about that hadith, first off, it's one of the best of the companions. Secondly, look at those acts. Feeding the poor, visiting the sick, seeing people who have a loss of life within their families. And then the one which was independently for himself was what? Fasting. Right? That the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allahumma ahini miskina. Right? The poverty of choice. Oh Allah, bring me into this life miskin. Wa amitni miskina. And take me out of this life miskin. Wahshurni fi zumar al-masakin. And resurrect me amongst who? The poor. We cannot divorce the Prophet ﷺ from that echelon or sector of our society. Right? We live in absolute affluence. Absolute affluence. Right? None of us, alhamdulillah, keep each and every single one of us safe, has to be subject to those type of hunger pangs. But does that mean that people in our communities aren't? Right? Does it mean that people in our communities know that they go without food, go without shelter, go without these basic needs? And if they do or don't, what's our concern for them? Right? The way we engage with the disenfranchised from the community is first and foremost to engage the vertical plane. To engage Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet into the equation. And if we divorce Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from that equation, we won't get anything done. Right? That's a fact. Right? The issues that we have today are based on what us, quote unquote, hasha, God forbid, divorcing our realities from the prophetic reality. Divorcing our realities from the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like I said, if we as translators of the da'wah, if the scholars are not walking alongside those people who are downtrodden, we have to ask ourselves a question. Which prophet are we making sense of? Because it's not the prophet that the fakir studied. Right? This is not the prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we engaged with. And if we have, mashallah, the irshadat, the guidances, the guidance from amongst our teachers, one of the first things our teachers told us to on the first visitation to the UK from abroad was give time to the incarcerated. Give time to who? The incarcerated. Right? They're a forgotten people. And as a percentage of the UK, the Muslims make up how much as a percentage? Roughly 3% of the incarcerated population. How much do Muslims make up? 11 to 12, possibly 13%. Right? Some, if you go to, for example, Feltham Young Offenders, which I have the blessings of going to, 40% are Muslim. 40%. Right? That's a crisis. But I went to a local prison, based on, again, the guidance of our teachers. And whilst I was there, there was a brother, this is in a place called Woking, where I'm from, and he said to me on the prison, he goes, are there any Muslims here in Woking? And I was somewhat offended in that Woking, mashallah, it's the first mosque in Northern Europe, irrespective of what the Liverpudlians will tell you. And I said, yeah, there's Muslims there. I said there's, mashallah, Muslims in Woking, first mosque. He goes, why has no one ever visited us? Right? Why has no one ever visited us? Why? Because we don't care. Right? We're engaging with things which aren't going to direct us towards our Lord. Right? Why don't they deserve our time? And again, what examples do we have from that first generation? If you engage that vertical plane, engage Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then engage those before you. Right? If we bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into the equation, and then engage those before us, without doubt you will give a portion of your time to those people who in the eyes of men have no societal worth. Right? In the eyes of men they have no societal worth. And when you go there and you engage, based on you engaging the vertical plane, you will see the hand of God in that equation. You will see the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that equation. At a time when, as an example, I've been there now in Broadmoor for 7 years. And again, it is working with some of the most challenging men in the UK, challenging incarcerated patients in the UK. And at a time after working, and you're going to see again the blessings of the advices of your teachers, is that when the sad act of drummer Lee Rigby being killed on the streets of London, it was a time when we all felt somewhat on edge, based on, sadly, the ramifications which took or could have taken place during that time. And so the week after drummer Lee Rigby was assassinated, there was a staff member in Broadmoor, and he said, I'd like to speak to you. I've got to be prepared for those things. And so he came to me, and this is an individual, I only knew him from the aspect of him escorting our incarcerated brothers to the Friday. And so he said to me, he goes, I want to say something to you. He said, I am a 50-year-old white Caucasian man. My whole life I hated Islam. My whole life I hated Islam. And he said, now someone here in this hospital has changed my perception. And now all I think about it is good. All I think about it is what? Good. Engage. Engage and see, mashallah, the hand of God in those acts. We don't engage. We're afraid to engage. We don't understand how to engage. Right? All you have to do is just take those steps. Right? And if you take those steps, you're going to see wondrous things happen. Right? Last story, because I see Sajid looking at me. Allah bless him. I hope you with the eye of love. Panic, yeah, we started late. Is that I give you an example of how people are waiting for us to engage. My wife, Allah bless her, her father passed away about 2 years ago from cancer, and so she was taking her father when he was alive to the hospital for his visits. And on taking her father to a visit, there was a woman that came up to her. And she was sitting by herself, and she's mutahajjab, she's covered, she's veiled. And this woman came up to her and she said, I'm lost. I can't remember where I live. And on saying that, my wife sat down with her and she spoke to her for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And when she gained her trust, she goes, do you mind if I look in your purse to see maybe if there's some evidence of address or the like? So she said, okay. So she opened up her purse and there was an address. So she goes, do you live here? She goes, I don't know, maybe possibly. And so she goes, okay, I'll take you and we'll see. So she took her to the address, and she had a key, and they opened the door. It was her house. And so she went into her house, and she came back to me and she told me that, there's a woman and she was lost and I feel really bad. She said she hasn't got anyone. She doesn't have a son, a husband, or anyone. And so she goes, I'm going to take her some food tomorrow, just to extend the hand of love. And so she goes, she went round there the next day and knocked on the door, and a man opened the door. And when the man opened the door, my wife, she was a bit confused as to, she goes, sorry, does so-and-so live here? And he goes, yeah, she does, she's my mother. And then the woman came, and she looked embarrassed. And what we realised is that the woman made up that whole story just to engage with someone. She made up that story just to engage with someone. And she chose to engage with someone who's mutahajjib, that wears a hijab, it's neither here nor there. The fact is, people want us to engage. Right? And if we're apathetic to the plight of people, we have not understood the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We engage the mustad'afin right now. We try to engage those who are downtrodden right now. Why? On the day of judgment, we're the mustad'afin. Right? We engage them now. Why? Kama tadin tudan. What goes around comes around. Right? In the next life, on the day of judgment, that's a time where we're all going to be mustad'afin. And there's only one man that's going to save us on that day, and his name is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And he's the man that will become to Adam alayhi salam. Ya Adam anta abuna, O Adam, you are our father. It's a time where the pinnacle of God's anger, the apex, the absolute pinnacle of God's anger is going to exist at that time. So we come to our father Adam to ask him to what? Sever this. And what does he say? He goes, go to other myself. To me, it's just me. To this day, it's just me. Go to other than myself. So they come to Nuh alayhi salam, Noah, the blessed prophet of God. Same thing. Today my Lord is angry. And angry he never has been, never will be. Right? Nafsi, nafsi, myself, myself. Go to other than me. Same thing they come to who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. Abraham, the prophet Adam. Same thing they come to who? Moses alayhi salam. Same thing they come to Isa alayhi salam. What does he say? Idha bil ahmad. Go to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And what does the prophet say? Ana laha, ana laha. Right? This is my station. فَأَخِرُّ سَاجِدًا. And I fall down prostrate. And Allah inspires me with inspirations that He's never inspired to anyone before me. Then it's what? Ya Muhammad, irfa ra'sak, isal tu'ta. Oh Muhammad, raise your head and ask and it will be given. Ishfatu shafa. Seek intercession and it will be given. What does He say? Ummati, ummati. Us. Right? On that day, we're the mustad'afin. On that day, we're the downtrodden. On that day, we're going to be hoping that whatever we did, these small acts we did in this life, inshallah, will resonate on that day. Inshallah. May Allah make us from amongst those, inshallah, that act in a manner that engages those that Allah loves, in a way that wards off His anger on that day. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa